Okay.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, if you mind. Okay. We'll try it. Okay. I think I can.
Rebecca, just yell something's not right, okay?
Okay, I will.
All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out. We're here tonight to talk about the safety corridor needs assessment, the draft assessment that was done for Edwin Miller Boulevard on the north side of Martinsburg. My name is Matt Mullenax. I'm the executive director of the Hagerstown Eastern Panhandle Metropolitan Planning Organization. We're a federally funded and designated regional transportation planning agency. There are about 400 MPOs across the country. They're created wherever the U.S. Census designates an urban area of more than 50,000 persons. And so we are the MPO that covers Berkeley and Jefferson counties, as well as Washington County and Maryland. And then Michaela, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and then Jim and Rebecca.
Yeah, hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Michaela McDonough. I work with Matt. I'm the transportation planner with the MPO.
And I'm Jim Fraser. I'm with Michael Baker. I'm the project manager of a project team.
And I'm Rebecca Chrisman. I'm a traffic engineer with Michael Baker. I specialize in traffic safety, among other things.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, so the objectives that we have for this evening is we're going to review and provide feedback on the draft safety corridor assessment for Edwin Miller Boulevard. And then we're going to outline some of the next steps for how we are taking in public comments we're receiving, how this assessment will be finalized, and what funding strategies exist for getting some of the recommendations approved. So the first thing we'll start with is the corridor assessment. We'll talk about some of the stakeholder engagement that we undertook for this effort. We'll talk about Safe Streets for All, which is a federal discretionary grant program, some information about that. And it's really one of the major funding sources that some of these improvements could come about under. Rebecca will talk about the conceptual design of some of the safety recommendations. We'll talk about how we can monitor and evaluate reductions in severe injuries and fatalities on Edwin Miller after the study is completed, and then the next steps for the study itself. So for the project timeline, we got underway this past July. We had our project kickoff meeting. We've been doing a lot of data development, data analysis, data creation from that, and working with our stakeholder group that involved a number of county and municipal folks, as well as our state highway folks from West Virginia DOH and Eastern Panhandle Transit Authority and a number of other folks. We came up with some of the countermeasures and safety concepts to help reduce risk along the corridor and improve safety. The next task that was finished in early winter was talking about how we can come up with a funding strategy. And again, the other task, monitoring and evaluation, as I mentioned before, and the finished product is going to be a finalized study. So the purpose of the assessment is that last May, our policy board approved a regional safety action plan that included detail analysis, and it identified a few corridors on what's called a high injury network that should be evaluated for further improvements. And one of those in Berkeley County was Edwin Miller. And so this assessment at its highest level, it summarizes existing conditions, proposed safety countermeasures, how we're going to fund it. But the ultimate goal, what all this is driving towards, what the safety action plan is driving towards, what SS4A as a federal program is driving towards, is trying to reduce severe crashes. So it's really all about targeting fatalities and serious injuries and the conditions or the risk factors or the geometric layout of certain areas that cause those or lead to them being caused. With that, I'll go ahead and turn over to Jim to go over existing conditions.
All right, thanks, man. Hello, everyone. First, I just wanted to, before we get into the concept development side of it, just give you of what we started with and how we got, and that this will help feed into why we provided some of the recommendations. Obviously, you guys know probably Edwin Miller better than I do, but coming off 81, it's 4 lanes and it transitions down to 2 lanes with a a center turn lane for the most part of the corridor. You see our corridor length goes from the ramps at 81 all the way down to Eagle School Road. On average, it's about 22,000 AADT, or number of cars per average day, about 22,000 cars. So that leads to, there is some congestion builds up along the corridor. There are 4 transit lines with bus stops. The bus stops themselves are not on Edwin Miller, but right off some of the branches of some of the intersections, off the intersections along the corridor. And
Jim,
yes,
the slides have not advanced on the screen. I don't know if they have
Yeah.
for
You
what the
just hit-
people are seeing.
If you hit your clicker, Jen, it will
Hmm.
advance what they see, and then when you do it,
Oh,
I'll
I see.
change it on the screen.
gotcha. Wonder why that didn't. There it goes. Now is it working?
Yes,
Did it-
sorry.
Oh, look at that.
Yep.
Yeah, there it goes. Okay. All right, and Matt mentioned this corridor is ranked on the state on the state's plan as one of the priority vulnerable road users in their assessment. Some of the safety issues that we've identified that are ongoing in this for the corridor and under existing conditions. There's obviously a lot of turning movements that can cause, some side accidents or some rear end crashes. The road conditions, including pavement quality, signage, lighting, and presence, and the presence of pedestrian crossings. Obviously, that contributes to potential accidents as well. There are issues that have been documented through our surveys or other stakeholders that there is speeding and aggressive driving along the corridor, and there's a lot, they do not yield to the pedestrians. And there is a lack of pedestrian and bicycle facilities along the corridor. And others contributing factors, environmental, like the weather, lighting, contribute to safety conditions, and also some of the feedback, like I mentioned. Okay, and our future conditions, there are some multifamily residential developments planned just outside the corridor that will obviously have been impacted. There's an increase in traffic and non-vehicle traffic that's expected, and there are some proposed improvements along the corridor, intersections at Moeller and Warm Springs, which is ongoing now. And then, or is it, I guess it's complete now. Right, Ken? Still ongoing? Okay. You got the priority corridor designation, and there's a new traffic signal planned at the courthouse intersection. All right, and the primary need for the assessment is what we're going to refer to as KSI, and the accidents that we're focusing on are those that resulted in a killed or severely injured accident. You can see our data that we used was 5 years worth of data from 2018 to 2023, and you can see a total of 564 accidents in those 5 years along the corridor. The focus, obviously, we had 3 fatals and then 6 severely injured accidents in the 5-year span. All right, this is the draft document itself. It just lays out the outline of the plan itself. So we go through these because everything I'm presenting today is included in the draft plan that's out for public comment. So. All right, we did do an on-site visit. There was about 20 of us that walked the corridor. There's a few pictures, but it was very helpful just to get on the ground and get some feedback from the other stakeholders and what we observed along the corridor itself. You can see there's, some bicyclists there. We did see like a wheelchair driving on the shoulder, a guy in a wheelchair. So little stuff like that, very helpful and provides a lot of good insight to what we need to recommend. All right, and as part of this stakeholder engagement, we had a risk assessment tool that Federal Highway sponsored. And what that means is basically you actually score the exposure, the crash likelihood, and the severity of each intersection and each segment along the corridor. And then from that, you recommend improvements, and then you rescore it. And that delta, which in fact, I'll show you the results, shows of how much risk you can expect to be reduced. So you can see the top half are the segments in the corridor. There's a before score and after score. After score includes the recommended control measures. And then same for the intersections. Each intersection is different. But overall, the number itself doesn't really mean anything other than what we want to demonstrate is the improvement. And that's what, when we get into the SS4A, the Safe Streets for All grants, that helps when they award these type of grants.
There's a lot of opportunity for reducing risk at the intersections.
Yes. And yeah, and like I said, in the detailed assessment is included as one of the appendices if you really want to go through and dig through the numbers. All right, we talked about this SS4A. It is part of the current infrastructure bill. And this is year 4 of the grants. So every year around March timeframe, they release these grants. The current grant, the current NOFO is Notice of Public Funding Opportunity, was released in March. There is a fairly quick turnaround. End of this month is when the grants are due to Federal Highways. There's 3 types of grants. One is for planning. One is for demonstration. That is kind of like temporary improvements that you can, that doesn't require construction to in place. And then you have your full implementation grants. So, and the priorities are going, this is from the federal side, applying technology to improvement in railway safety, emphasizing the safety of children and access to schools, and preserving access for emergency and delivery vehicles. I do want to also highlight, this is not the only funding opportunity to implement safety measures. And there is also a state, they call it HSIP, which stands for Highway Safety Improvement Program, that there is funding at the state level where they can implement these type of grants as well for projects that improve safety. Okay. Okay. Now going into the conceptual design here. All right. Okay, basically we separate this corridor. Let me just go ahead and look in the corridor. You can see too on the speed wise, the speed limit it does decrease along the corridor as you get away from the I-81 from 45 to 35. There are 6 traffic signals at intersections along the corridor as well. And then we'll focus on starting out at I want to say east side, but it could be south side. I guess it runs kind of like northwest.
I know it is. It's like
So,
south.
But this is the Raleigh Street intersection, and you can see a lot of them recommended improvements here. Then we start out with one is getting rid of the separated right turn lanes. Now I will say Rebecca is on the line and she's our traffic engineer. She's really understands it and does a good job at developing these. So if I start wearing off, Rebecca, just speak up. But
Okay,
that dedicated turn lane, we're recommending to remove that altogether. So it comes back to a traditional four-way stop.
well, they're known as channelized right turn lanes. And we're proposing to change them to just dedicated right turn bays. So, to bring them into the main leg of the signal. So that's the difference there. We're maintaining a dedicated turn lane, just not having it be channelized and free flow. They would have to come, make a right on red, or wait for their green signal.
Second is the upgrade of all the traffic signals. This will include a permissive left turn with phasing and adjusting the timing based on the traffic data. Our thoughts from our observations was that the timing probably needs to be updated, which obviously you get a lot of queuing, especially around the Raleigh intersection that backs up. And we could increase some of the green times along on the signals. And we could also coordinate those signals more along the rest of the corridor. And then pedestrian improvements at all four intersections. And also that includes a crossing lane, the ADA compliance, and also provide ability for pedestrians to cross that intersection, because that intersection is obviously very dangerous. And this is the biggest one, obviously, we focused on for this, so. All right, we good there? All right, this is just a blow up of a cross section of what the lanes would look like. This is facing toward I-81 on Edwin Miller. So 12 lanes, 12-foot lanes with a 5-foot buffer between the straight lane and obviously the left turn lane. And then you have your dedicated right turn lane on the right. And you can see how the channelized right turns are no longer there.
Right, and the buffer is, I think it's out there now. And that serves to offset the left turn lane so that they can see past the opposing left turn lane and see the oncoming traffic better and make a better decision about whether to turn or not on the permissive portion of the left turn phase when it's not protected left.
All right, this obviously is the full length of the corridor, has the improvements identified, but we're gonna go ahead and break these down into 4 detailed pictures. So, but overall, I just wanted to highlight what we're recommending is a multi-use bike ped path that runs the whole length of the corridor along. See, I want to say south side, but on the
It'll be
left side
west.
of the port.
Yeah.
And you can see here too, these future developments that are planned, most of those are apartment buildings, if I'm correct. So obviously it's going to increase the pedestrian traffic and bicycle traffic and kids and everything else in the area. There's one planned over here, and some minor, a little bit right there as well. And just to identify some of these, so that the white is the bike ped path. I'm sorry, the blue is the bike ped path. The white is what the right of way. So there is a lot of existing right of way in this corridor. So there is room to do a lot of different things. Everything we're doing here too also is conceptual. The next phase to move forward would go into more detailed engineering. So a lot of the specifics would be worked out there. But this bike path comes down here, and this green little circles there, that's that big swale that runs along Edwin Miller. It's not as severe until you get to Courthouse, and then it gets really, really steep. So what we are recommending there is the bike path now would turn at Courthouse and go up around and come down Forbes and tie into the existing bike lanes and sidewalks on Raleigh Street.
And
That
still
make-
have, and still have a true, we're also proposing a little sidewalk connection along Raleigh all the way up to the Raleigh Street intersection, but that would just be a true sidewalk connection. The bike path, the wider shared use path,
No, this actually
dive-
more this way,
yeah.
right, to get to this plaza really.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so it's,
Coming up
I think it
beside
ends
CVS.
like right there at CVS. So we would bring it all the way through the intersection. Okay,
And I think too, Ken, is there something that's gonna happen at the old APM up here? Or is that-
Haven't heard anything for a couple of years on that.
Okay.
but that was supposed to be, residential and hotel. Both in that area.
Yeah. Be a lot of trips to Long John Silver's.
okay.
Now,
So
now we
the more-
flipped the colors on you here, Jim. Now the path is white and the right of way is the blue.
Nice job.
Sorry. Don't mean to be confusing.
None taken. All right, so what I want to point out here, obviously, we had that proposed intersection at Courthouse that is already planned. You can see the crosswalks that are at every intersection, but also this signage. And this signage would actually be along Forbes Avenue or Forbes Drive that basically identifies this pedestrian path and then the bike path. We actually want to update those, Matt, to show a bike and ped.
Okay, yeah.
And,
split.
You know, it'll be a split, so we will show the bicycles and pedestrian paths coming in here, so. Right,
Yes, there's a standard sign that we just grabbed the wrong sign to put on this graphic. We will update it.
very good. Okay, and then just moving down the corridor, you can see how the path ties in. There is an existing sidewalk that's right in this area. So we would tie right into that. And now the path to itself, I wanted to have just what we were thinking was like a 10-foot path, multi-use, which means there's a separation between bikes and pedestrians. And the materials would be bituminous or asphalt type of path, so.
That keeps the price down. We're also proposing to have it a lot of times we tried to look. We think it's farther back on the right of way just because there is still that swale there and the embankments and
Yeah.
constructing. And then if you keep it out of the swale, you don't have to pay for a lot of drainage improvements. It's just construction of still gonna be pricey, but not as pricey it otherwise would be. And just bring it down closer to the road, at the signalized intersections where they can cross the street safely.
Okay. And this continues on, you can see the path and also, you know, the markings at every entrance along the path with stop signs on the path. So. And this gets down at the far end, right at Warm Springs. And same thing when it would also be some bicycle signs there saying yield to pedestrians. So the pedestrians would have the right of way over the bikes. Obviously, a safety measure there too. But so I'm gonna just quickly then go into what these intersections look like. Okay, so every intersection would have these improvements, a full suite of pedestrian features, constructing 10-foot sidewalks and crossings along the multi-use path. And you can see here, that would be the bike path. These would be the 88 curbs. Then you have the pedestrian buttons for crossing. And also you have that the I guess that's the sign, but the signals too would all include backplates, which would highlight them, so it's a lot easier to see, especially at night. And then we also talking too about optimizing the signal timing along the corridor. So,
And changing out the left, or either adding left turn phasing in heads or changing out what's there, if there already are 5-section heads, to 4-section flashing yellow arrow to run protected sometimes of the day, protected permissive sometimes of the day, and then pedestrian override of only protected. If the pedestrians push the button across, then you don't let the left turn permissively while they're doing that. So that once you change out that head, you can do that.
makes sense. You on track with that, Ken? Is that me? Yeah,
I'm sorry?
I was asking Ken if he agrees
Oh.
to that. Is that kind of what they're doing now?
I see.
Ken,
We
go
haven't
ahead.
done it in West Virginia yet, but that, I think we're hoping to consider the flashing yellow left turn arrows.
Yeah,
I hope
Okay.
so.
yeah, would make a big improvement. And then this, go ahead, talks about, those traffic signs there, or the bike ped signs that would be installed there at Forbes Drive.
Right, so that's just showing a sort of an uncontrolled crossing, but to connect to, because that intersection is free flow on Raleigh Street. So, but paint up the crosswalk as a high visibility crosswalk and then give it a lot of signing so the cars know to look out for the shared use path, basically crossing there to get to the new park constructed on Forbes. That's the
Yeah.
connection to the existing situation.
Right, because the bike path runs on this side of Raleigh, and this side is all sidewalk. So the
Right.
bike path would cross there and there to get onto the new bike path.
Right, and then closer down to Raleigh, you can see, once you close off the channelized right turn lane, there's actually room then to complete the construction of the sidewalk. With the channelized right turn there right now, there's no room to continue that sidewalk without falling into that giant ditch. But if you close that off, then you can get the sidewalk all the way to the intersection and give those pedestrians heading to those shopping areas right across the street, safe passage, if you will, safe crossing.
Okay, well, stop here. Any comments or questions on any of the concepts that we've identified? Okay. Just quickly on the monitoring evaluation, all this is that we will have a tool to continue to monitor the crashes. Like 2024 data is now available, but especially after countermeasures get implemented, to actually go back and see, okay, what kind of impact that had, especially on the KSI crashes. And then going into the next steps, we are in the public comment period, obviously. That ends on the 23rd this month. And after that is complete, we will respond to the comments, make any changes to the report as required or needed. And then we will finalize the quarter report, and that would go back to Matt on his website. And then if there's any assistance needed if there is any grant applications, we would support that as well. Yeah, it kind of sucks that it's so quick, but because there's a lot of good, and then obviously those grants do have a local match, which also is proven very, very difficult. So
Yeah. It's especially challenging in West Virginia because of a tight turnaround, but as Ken will say, is we have the fourth largest road network of all 50 states, where like Race is state-owned, Queen is state-owned, right? Roads that typically folks might think are a city street or downtown, actually owned by the state. And then this particular program, SS4A, can only be awarded to cities and counties. So there has to be a number of cooperative agreements in place before funds could be let, draw down, you could do contract administration and all that. So
So the 20% would, the city and the county would have to come up with that.
it just has to be non-federal. So we were talking about politics earlier. So the city of Bluefield, I don't know if you saw, they got a $25 million SS4A grant. And through politics and former governor and things like that, at least $5 million came from some state pot of money to match that in the city of Bluefield.
I didn't realize you could use state funds.
Yeah, you can. It's atypical, but then again, we're one of the few,
Right.
right? We're not a commonwealth, but we're
That's
sort of like that with road ownership. So, yeah, and local match is a struggle, right, for a lot of the cities and counties. And so far today, in our emails and conversations with folks at Berkeley County, because the bulk of this is in the county. Some of it's in the city, a small part, but between the city and the county conversations just can't seem to get traction, at least this round, for going for SS4A. It's hard too, because I mean, it's a tight turnaround, but it's right at the end of the state fiscal year, the city and county fiscal year. It's not the time that you asking for big capital projects unless they're flush, but that's not what we're seeing right now. So,
Yeah.
But anyway, we can pull up Google Maps. You can look at any of the intersections in particular, or go through any other parts. But do you have any questions, sir, or just here to listen and learn?
Yes, sir. So the proposed multi-use path, does that terminate then at the intersection of Edwin Miller, Warm Springs, whatever goes down to the APM?
Yes, right now.
Okay.
And that it could be phased for certain parts. It could, because we have like, I can't think of the name of the apartments here, but we do have, let me see if I can go backwards. We do have some apartments right over here. And at this location where folks are trying to get to Sheetz or McDonald's, right? And there are some folks that stay at the hotels, the old Knights Inn and the Super 8 that are trying to get down here as well. So, and then the pharmacy. So there's a lot of activity. You probably see folks in the shoulders a lot,
Yes.
which is challenging because that's room that could be a safe path or something, but then you can't do speeding pullovers, right? Because then there's no shoulder, there's no space. There's no room to do car repairs. So hopefully, because the state, I mean, it's almost like 100-foot right of way, give or take. So there is a lot of room, but there's, as Rebecca mentioned with the swale, there's some engineering challenges at certain parts. I guess it would have been easy, it would have already been done, right?
But
But,
also, this was, so the way the original study from which this originated was done is they broke the roadway network into what are known as segments. And this intersection is basically the limit of the segment that was sort of rose to the top. So we really didn't look at any continuity kind of to the north or east or whatever direction that is over there towards the interchange. We weren't really looking at what to do about safety down there because we didn't really look at it. So we just terminated at the limit of the segment that was under study.
Mhm. Yeah, and some of that was driven by the state's vulnerable road user assessment where those segments were, and you're right, Rebecca, it can be a challenge to pick where you stop pulling the thread, because I know I've seen folks walking across the overpass over I-81, they're trying to get to Rudders, and soon there'll be another Sheetz and a Wawa and some other, things just on the other side of the interstate. And there's probably not That's probably, your drivers probably wouldn't pick up somebody. That's not a safe, yeah, you just gotta move on by.
Look at him at Rocks over there.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's right, Rocks is over there
So
too.
that's somewhat the basis of my question is not disagreeing with the project at all. I feel like we're moving a lot of pedestrian traffic towards the interstate, and there's a lot of building and influx of resources across the interstate,
Mm-hmm,
and there's no means for pedestrian traffic
to get from,
past that intersection. So
Mhm.
now we funneled all these people from the city
to that end
to
and there.
that end of town
Mhm.
with a very distinct stopping point. You know, they're going to be on the roadway on a bike or a wheelchair or a foot, however they travel to where they arrive.
Right.
We're kind of funneling people, I think,
Right, we're.
um,
Yeah, and that's another challenge because of, I don't disagree. It's a challenge with how we can accommodate them safely on the roadway without interfering with like highway operations, right? With certain types of flex posts, certain types of barriers. It's a challenge.
And I wonder if those pedestrians that you see walking through the interchange, you know, trying to navigate all those ramps and trying to get to work at Macy's or FedEx or Quad or
Yeah.
something like that, you know, that to me seems like more the destination and the transit authority does offer.
Oh, yeah.
Get a ride.
Solution.
Yeah.
Right.
Get a-
Nice area.
Get a month's worth or 20-some.
20 round trips.
20 round trips, yeah, for starting there. Well, maybe it's, we would consider. I mean, I don't know. What would be like if that's where we terminate, if there was a transit stop there or near there, it's a
I
challenge.
just got 10 bus shelters. Put 'em
Oh.
up.
Just gotta get it worked out.
Yeah,
So we've got the Super 8, old APM, state troopers,
And then all those apartments.
all these apartments. Maybe that, now. Because you have a stop, I don't know if you still stop out here, do you? Yeah,
I
okay,
do.
yeah, so you stop there, come out Lutz. And then head over to Quad and FedEx and all
A lot of
that.
people walk to the HHL.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that's true, you got the other route that goes
Stop
out.
there, bus stop.
Yeah, well, maybe Elaine, we could talk about if this ever came about, would there be a good? Because you can't, yeah, if I were a driver, I wouldn't feel safe. Anybody was flagging me down right in here.
Well, the new proposed routes, we're coming back this way.
Okay,
But, so we are coming back that way, so it would be, you know,
oh, so then if they hop in here, they've got to do a round trip, right, to come back. Unless they do. A demand response.
but I think that's only like 35 minutes round, so it's
Oh.
not that long.
So it's not here. Yeah, okay.
Good dogs.
And that would be a right in, right out then of wherever, if you stopped along there. And you got shelters, yep, shelters and signs, right?
That definitely seems like a more viable option than the one that struck me, which is I live in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and we have a one location where we have a mall on one side of US 30, which is an expressway, and a public park on the other that has big events, and they actually use the mall parking for overflow parking for the park, and there is a tunnel under the expressway, a pedestrian only tunnel between the mall parking. Can I steal your screen?
Sure.
Can you
Yeah, go
guys
for
see
it.
this? I don't know if you guys end up seeing what I see though. So This is the expressway here, US 30. I don't know, can you guys see that?
Yeah.
And then this is the mall. Here's the mall parking, and then you can see this, I don't know if you can see this pedestrian path goes under 30 to an expressway and then comes out to this public park that has big events. And this is just pedestrians. And I don't know if, so obviously this is a US expressway that has allowed a pedestrian tunnel underneath. Instead of they bring them like across this interchange, which is similar situation as yours, which is just, it would just be hazardous. Anyway, just wanted to share that, but because you guys are, where are we? Here. I didn't know if you'd bring pedestrians here and try to get something for these any public roads. Or bring them back. Of course, that's the railroad tracks. That's a no-go. Unless you come back here and have your developer do it under here or something. It's tricky, but the buses definitely sound like a better option.
Yeah. And all the EPTA's buses have bike racks on them and ADA seating. Whoops. Yeah. Yeah. Some language in there about future bus stops and take advantage of the routes that come through there, trying to get folks at least provide the option, right? Yeah.
I don't know, if it'd be a place to even, add a wide spot for a bus stop somewhere that targeted there.
Oh, like a little pullover area or something. Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. They did one on the dual highway in Hagerstown. Right in front of the senior living. Oops.
You know where most of the customers live.
We have some ridership data. I don't know if we have a ton on like the flag stop stuff, but
Because if they happen outside the geofence, it doesn't count until the next stop.
okay.
So,
Yeah, that's interesting. There would be a spot.
you should probably lay this next to the TDP now.
Yeah, yeah, we can make a note. We're working on EPTA's 5-year plan in parallel. So we can send a note to Jared to consider a spot. Or at least, have that reference that could be, some sort of partnership with the state on like a capital project or included in a grant or something like that.
Well, I just wonder how, when we move to race and rally, how much that pedestrian traffic will maybe, because we'll be there to pick up everybody heading that way, right? Instead of them having to go to the train station.
Yeah,
So,
I could see folks like in here walking down and hopping on there for sure. I see people cross every now and then trying to get to the Walgreens. Actually, I see more people walking here than to the CVS.
yeah, and my only comment
Mhm.
is that intersection at Forbes and North Raleigh is where we got T-boned. Somebody pulling out of Forbes, and they just, and I'm sure I can defer to the sheriff, but they just don't yield off of Forbes. They're trying to get out and head, north on 11. So,
Yeah.
I just feel like some improved, maybe flashing yield signs or, something. They have those wonderful solar blinking signs for pedestrians, but. it's
Right,
about-
the RRFBs. I had considered that. What I'm concerned about is there's a little bit of a sight distance issue coming over the signal here at at Edwin Miller in Raleigh. And I was concerned people might come over there, and if somebody saw the flashing light and stopped quickly or unexpectedly, that we would actually, I'm a little concerned of increasing rear end crashes of cars, that the exuberant stoppers versus the more relaxed stoppers, and having expectations start to crash. And I was thinking maybe the pedestrians need to be more careful and not rely on that people are going to stop. I was a little concerned about that short distance and the short sight distance. One thought I had was there are 2 lanes that come in. Is it like a lane drop or whatever at Forbes coming from Edwin Miller because of the channelized right turn lane? But once we get rid of the channelized right turn lane, you could put everybody back into 1 lane, because it's only 1 lane past Forbes anyway. And that would give people exiting Forbes not any confusion about 2 lanes approaching, because that a lot of times, that multi-lane can kind of block your view. You don't know who's doing what. I'm not sure everybody who comes in that lane really intends to turn anyway. You know, is there some confusion happening down there? It was kind of outside of our area of study, but when I was looking at it for this tying in of the pedestrian facility, I got to thinking about it.
Yeah,
But
I think there might be some confusion, Rebecca. That's a good point. One of the things that I noticed is I feel that the overhead sign that's like right around in here is just a little off of the lanes themselves, like the lane placement. So the left only looks like it's in the through lane. Just because I can pull up a Google.
Yeah, me.
Oh, actually, that looks pretty good. There you go. Oh, maybe it's not too bad. Maybe that's the site when I come down. I'm trying to find out. Okay, like sorry, you all can't see online, but
I'm
from
getting
this vantage point, until you get a little closer,
Here we go.
but you can't have that left only too far out, because it's not a 2-way left. Oh, there's
Perfect, right down the sidewalk.
somebody going right now.
It's funny the bypass that was right on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
I don't think that sign's intended to be over 1 particular lane.
Oh, okay. It's just more the
Just the
layout, the section of it. Okay.
Exactly what we say otherwise.
I think we're talking about Raleigh Street, right?
Yeah, I'm on the wrong street, aren't I?
Yep.
An overhead sign, black and white.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, good. And just flip it around, Jim.
Yeah,
there
there
we go.
Yeah.
There. But
Oh, yeah, that,
but like
yeah.
Kinsey-
that just is kind of saying this is what the lane configuration is going to be, because you don't know what lane's what, really. Because right there, you're only 2 lanes. You're not even sure which one's going to open up to which side at this point, if you're unfamiliar with this road. Yeah. See, I'd be inclined to get rid of that right turn bay. Just let them turn out of the straight through. Let the left develop like a left turn bay. And then maybe, I mean, we could. Was it a bus that got T-boned?
Well, somebody pulled out in front of we T-boned them, but they literally pulled out in front of us from Forbes turning, going north on 11.
The bus
Right.
was going south.
No, we were heading that way. We were
You're going just
the
this
same
way?
Oh,
She just pulled out. She didn't,
jeez.
Yeah, my guess is she was confused about which lane did what, probably. I mean, there's no missing a bus coming, right? So,
I'd be surprised.
yeah, well, I mean, we could recommend the RFB. That won't solve this other problem of what the cars are doing. But I feel like we could also recommend the lane reconfiguration here. It was a little out of our area, so I just wasn't dabbling in it, but we could. I think, Jim, or no, or if you guys want us to or not. In conjunction with the elimination of the right turn channel light. See, if you go back up to the intersection, that's how that lane develops. And maybe that's the other issue is people come in that channelized right turn and use this more as a merge lane. So it could be they're in that lane longer than they really need to be, because like when they come into this lane, people who are down at that intersection may think they are intending to turn right. When in reality, they're just getting in the flow and getting ready to get into the through lane. I would think this leads to operational issue or confusion. And once we put in the right turn lane and eliminate this and get the sidewalk up there, then everybody just comes in the through lane and then they turn right. Which turning right doesn't usually slow traffic down much because they have right of way almost all the time. In this situation, they're just coming and turning right. They don't have to stop for anyone, but they have to slow down. Which, if it's heavy truck or bus traffic, then that would obscure the line of sight to the flashing RRFB once they're all in the same lane. And then the right turners are slowing down, but that has slowed them down to then perceive what's going on once that vehicle's out of the way.
Okay, yeah, we can update that and just show that.
Yeah, if
Fairly
Matt
quickly.
wants us to or not, what, we'll leave it
I
at,
think that's fine, given the proximity to the other intersection and how they can influence each other.
right, and yeah, we're changing the interaction up here,
Yeah.
That's right. Back up at Grayson.
okay?
All right.
Okay.
Listen to me.
Very
Don't be
good.
getting out of Walgreens when the Coast Guard lets out. We'll be sitting. Okay. We got some good comments and feedback. We can work into final draft and we can talk with our consultants on the TDP about considerations for Edwin Miller. That's good.
Okay.
Well, Matt, I just noticed, do you see that single face barrier behind the sidewalk there?
Yes.
How about
The
that?
sign next to the
That's,
crosswalk.
so it's obviously being used in West Virginia too.
Yes. Yeah, that's Pennsylvania. Look, you have Plexi Phil, we have French Creek Freddy, like we're using our signs. You're not alone. in
Yep.
Pennsylvania.
It's a very efficient retaining wall.
Yes, yeah. I kick it over to
There it is, other side.
over here and then that drops down. That was another recommendation too we had for throughout the corridor. It wasn't a detailed lighting plan, but we talked about improving lighting and some of the nighttime related crashes and near misses that are happening along the corridor. just looking at some of these lights on, Raleigh Street. Okay, any other questions or comments for the good of the order? Okay. Well, thank you all so much for your time. Public comment period runs through June 23rd. Any comments you can send to us, you can email us, or just give us a call. We're happy to incorporate those. All the public comments that we have been receiving will be included in one of the appendices, and we will have a response to all of them that we've received. So I guess there's nothing else. Thank you all so much for coming out, and have a great evening.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye, Michaela.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.